Pisces, come sit with me for a moment because I have something really important to share with you today. I know this topic hits deep, and I want you to know that whatever you're feeling right now about this situation is completely valid. Sometimes love exists in the most complicated circumstances, and today we're going to explore what really happened when someone loved you but couldn't make that commitment work in their life. I've been feeling this energy around Pisces lately, and honestly, it's been weighing on my heart because I know so many of you are dealing with this exact situation. You know, that person who made you feel like you were everything to them, but somehow you never became their everything in return. That person who loved you in private, but couldn't love you in public. The one who chose convenience over commitment, even though the love was real. Let me just start by saying that your intuition about this situation is probably spot on. As a Pisces, you feel things so deeply, and you pick up on energy that others miss completely. If you sense that they loved you, but something was holding them back from fully committing to you, then trust that feeling because the cards are about to confirm what your heart already knows. I'm going to pull some cards today to help us understand the full story of what happened and why someone who genuinely cared for you made the choice they did. This isn't about making excuses for them or trying to get you back together. This is about understanding the situation so you can find peace and move forward with clarity. Before I start pulling cards, I want to acknowledge how confusing this type of situation can be. When someone loves you but won't commit to you, it creates this really painful cognitive dissonance where you're constantly questioning whether the love was real or whether you're worthy of commitment. I want you to know right now that their inability to commit to you says nothing about your worth and everything about where they were in their life. Okay, let me pull the first card to see what was really going on in their heart and mind during this situation. The first card I'm getting is the Four of Swords. And wow, this is already telling us so much about their mental state. This card is all about mental rest, contemplation, and honestly, a form of emotional withdrawal. What I'm seeing here is that this person was in a space where they needed to be mentally and emotionally unavailable, even though their heart was very much engaged with you. The Four of Swords often comes up when someone is dealing with some form of mental exhaustion or emotional overwhelm in their life. This person loved you, Pisces, but they were simultaneously dealing with something that required them to conserve their emotional energy. Maybe they were going through a difficult divorce, dealing with family drama, struggling with mental health issues, or facing some major life transition that left them feeling drained. What's really important to understand about the Four of Swords in this context is that it shows someone who is consciously choosing to step back and create boundaries, not because they don't care, but because they recognize they don't have the emotional bandwidth to show up fully. This person knew that loving you deserved more than they could give at that time. I'm getting the sense that they were very aware of their limitations, and rather than stringing you along or giving you half of themselves, they made the difficult decision to not pursue the commitment even though the feelings were there. This is actually a form of emotional maturity, even though it probably didn't feel that way to you at the time. The Four of Swords is also about taking time to heal and restore. This person was in a healing phase of their life, and they recognized that entering into a committed relationship with you while they were still healing would not have been fair to either of you. They loved you enough to not want to hurt you by being emotionally unavailable within a committed relationship. What I find really significant about this card is that it suggests this person was doing inner work during this time. They weren't just randomly unavailable or playing games with your heart. They were genuinely dealing with something that required their full attention and energy. The fact that they recognized this rather than just dragging you along shows a level of self-awareness that actually speaks well of their character. For you as a Pisces, this probably felt incredibly confusing because you could feel their love, but you couldn't understand why love wasn't enough for them to commit. The Four of Swords helps explain that sometimes love isn't enough when someone is not in the right mental or emotional space to sustain a healthy, committed relationship. This card is also suggesting that during the time you knew each other, they were in a period of forced introspection. Something in their life was requiring them to look inward and focus on their own healing and growth. While this was happening, their heart was with you, but Their energy and attention needed to be focused on whatever healing work they were doing. I want you to understand that this doesn't minimize the love they felt for you. If anything, it shows that they cared about you enough to recognize that they couldn't give you what you deserved at that time. The Four of Swords represents someone who is being responsible about their emotional limitations rather than making promises they couldn't keep. Now let me pull another card to understand more about what was making commitment feel impossible for them, even though the love was real. The next card coming through is the Seven of Pentacles, and this is giving us such important insight into their practical considerations around commitment. The Seven of Pentacles is all about evaluation, weighing options, and looking at long-term investments versus immediate gratification. This card is showing me that this person was very much in an evaluation phase of their life when they knew you. They were looking at all aspects of their life, including career, finances, family obligations, life goals, and trying to figure out how all the pieces fit together. In their mind, commitment to you would have required them to make significant changes or sacrifices in other areas of their life. The Seven of Pentacles often comes up when someone is at a crossroads and needs to make strategic decisions about where to invest their time and energy for the best long-term outcome. This person was looking at their life like a garden and trying to decide where to put their resources to get the best harvest. Unfortunately for both of you, committing to the relationship didn't fit into their strategic life plan at that time. What I'm seeing with this card is that they weren't necessarily rejecting you personally, but rather they were rejecting the timing and circumstances. The Seven of Pentacles suggests they could see that being with you would require them to restructure their life in ways they weren't ready for. Maybe they would have had to relocate, change career paths, end other relationships, or make financial sacrifices that felt too big at that time. This is where the convenience factor really comes in. It wasn't that loving you was inconvenient, but that committing to you would have required them to make their life less convenient in other ways. The Seven of Pentacles shows someone who prioritizes stability and gradual progress over dramatic changes, even when those changes might lead to happiness. For a Pisces, this probably felt incredibly hurtful because you approach love from the heart while they were approaching it from the head. You were ready to figure it out as you go while they needed to have a clear plan for how it would all work before they could commit. This fundamental difference in approach to love and life probably created a lot of misunderstanding between you. The Seven of Pentacles also suggests they were probably comparing the relationship to other options in their life. This is hard to hear, but they were likely weighing their feelings for you against other practical considerations like career advancement, family expectations, financial stability, or even other relationships. To them, love was one factor among many rather than the deciding factor. What's important to understand is that this doesn't mean the love wasn't real or that you weren't special to them. The Seven of Pentacles shows someone who makes decisions based on careful consideration of all factors rather than following their heart alone. They may have genuinely believed that not committing to you was the more responsible choice for both of your futures. This card is also indicating that they saw the relationship as requiring more investment than they were prepared to make at that time. Not just emotional investment, but practical investment of time, energy, resources, and life changes. They calculated the cost of commitment and decided it was too high, given their other priorities and obligations. The Seven of Pentacles suggests they were also thinking about long-term compatibility and sustainability. They may have loved you deeply, but questioned whether the relationship could work practically in the long run, given your different life circumstances, goals, or values. Rather than jumping in and hoping for the best, they chose to step back because they couldn't see a clear path forward. Let me pull another card to understand what their deeper fears or concerns were about committing to this relationship with you. I'm getting the Eight of Cups, and this card is revealing so much about their emotional state and what they were really afraid of. The Eight of Cups is about walking away from something that no longer serves you, even when it's difficult to leave. But in this context, it's showing me that this person was afraid of having to walk away from other important things in their life in order to commit to you. The Eight of Cups often represents the fear of abandonment or the fear of having to abandon something important. This person was looking at their life and feeling like committing to you would require them to turn their back on other relationships, opportunities, or aspects of their identity that they weren't ready to release. What I'm seeing here is that they were dealing with some form of emotional conflict or guilt about what choosing you would mean for other people in their life. Maybe they had family who wouldn't approve of the relationship. Maybe they were still connected to an ex-partner. Maybe they had children from a previous relationship. Or maybe they had made commitments to other people that would be complicated by being with you. The Eight of Cups is also about emotional disappointment and the fear of future disappointment. This person may have been burned in previous relationships where they committed fully only to have things fall apart. They were protecting themselves from potential heartbreak by not allowing themselves to commit fully to you, even though they wanted to. There's also an element here of this person feeling like they would have to abandon parts of themselves or their life path in order to be with you. The Eight of Cups can indicate someone who feels they need to walk away from their current life in order to pursue love, and that felt too scary or too risky for them at that time. This card is showing me that their decision was based more on fear than on logic. They were afraid of the unknown, afraid of having to give up control, afraid of disappointing other people, afraid of making the wrong choice, afraid of getting hurt, afraid of hurting you. The Eight of Cups represents someone who chooses the familiar discomfort over the unknown possibility. For you as a Pisces, this probably felt like rejection, but what the Eight of Cups is showing is that it was more about their fear than about you not being enough. They were so afraid of what commitment might require them to sacrifice that they chose to sacrifice the relationship instead. The Eight of Cups also suggests they may have been dealing with some form of depression or emotional numbness that made it hard for them to take emotional risks. When someone is in this state, they often make decisions based on avoiding pain rather than pursuing happiness. They chose what felt safe over what felt right. This card is also indicating that on some level, they knew walking away from you was a mistake, but they did it anyway because staying felt too overwhelming. The Eight of Cups often comes up when someone makes a choice they know they'll regret because the alternative feels too scary to face. What's really sad about the Eight of Cups in this position is that it shows someone who is so focused on what they might lose that they can't see what they're actually losing by not committing. They were so afraid of potential future pain that they chose definite present pain instead. Now let me pull a card to see what was really in their heart about you and the connection you shared. The next card I'm getting is the Knight of Cups and Oh My Heart Pisces, because this is confirming that their feelings for you were absolutely real and deep. The Knight of Cups is one of the most romantic and emotionally sincere cards in the entire deck. This person didn't just love you, they were completely enchanted by you. The Knight of Cups represents someone who is deeply romantic, emotionally expressive, and genuinely caring. This card is showing me that when they were with you, they felt like they had found something magical and rare. You awakened something in them that they hadn't experienced before, hadn't experienced in a very long time. What I love about the Knight of Cups in this reading is that it confirms your intuition about their feelings being real. This wasn't someone who was just playing with your emotions or using you for convenience. This was someone who was genuinely moved by you and felt a deep emotional connection that probably surprised them with its intensity. The Knight of Cups also suggests they were probably very romantic and thoughtful in how they expressed their feelings for you. This person likely went out of their way to make you feel special, remembered little details about you, and showed their love through gestures and words that felt very sincere. When the Knight of Cups loves someone, they love with their whole heart. But here's where it gets complicated with the Knight of Cups. This card also represents someone who can be idealistic about love to the point where reality feels disappointing in comparison. This person may have loved the idea of being with you so much that they were afraid the reality couldn't live up to the fantasy they had created in their mind. The Knight of Cups can also indicate someone who loves deeply but struggles with follow-through. They feel everything intensely in the moment, but when it comes to making practical commitments, they can become overwhelmed by the gap between their romantic feelings and the practical realities of life. This card is showing me that they probably idealized you and the relationship in a way that made them feel both deeply connected and completely overwhelmed. The Knight of Cups loves with the intensity of a fairy tale, but sometimes real life doesn't feel like a fairy tale, and that can be paralyzing for them. What's beautiful about this card in your reading is that it shows their love for you was pure and genuine. The Knight of Cups doesn't fake emotions or manipulate people. When this card appears, it represents authentic romantic love and deep emotional connection. Whatever else was happening in the situation, their feelings for you were absolutely real. The Knight of Cups is also showing me that they probably saw you as someone special and rare. This isn't someone who falls in love easily or casually. When the Knight of Cups is drawn to someone, it's because they see something in that person that touches them deeply. You weren't just another option to them, you were someone who moved their soul. This card also suggests they may have put you on a pedestal in a way that made them feel unworthy or afraid of disappointing you. The Knight of Cups can sometimes love someone so much that they become paralyzed by the fear of not being good enough for them. They may have felt like you deserved better than what they could offer at that time. The Knight of Cups in this position is also telling me that their feelings for you probably scared them because of how intense they were. When someone feels this deeply about another person, it can be overwhelming, especially if they're not in a place in their life where they feel ready to surrender to that kind of love. What I find really significant about the Knight of Cups appearing in this reading is that it shows this person's heart was completely engaged, even though their practical mind was telling them that commitment wasn't possible. This creates such a painful internal conflict between what they felt and what they thought they should do. Let me pull one more card to understand what the real obstacle was that prevented them from choosing commitment with you. I'm getting the Two of Pentacles, and this card is showing me exactly what was making commitment feel impossible for this person. The Two of Pentacles is all about juggling multiple responsibilities, trying to maintain balance between competing priorities, and feeling overwhelmed by having too much on your plate. This card is confirming that this person was dealing with a situation where they literally felt like they couldn't add one more significant responsibility or commitment to their life without everything falling apart. The Two of Pentacles shows someone who is already stretched thin, trying to manage work, family, finances, health, or other major life responsibilities. What I'm seeing with this card is that committing to you would have required them to juggle one more major priority, and they genuinely didn't think they could do it successfully. The Two of Pentacles represents someone who is barely keeping all their balls in the air and is afraid that adding another one will cause them to drop everything. This helps explain why they said commitment wasn't convenient. It wasn't that you weren't worth it, but that their life was already so full and demanding that they couldn't see how to fit a committed relationship into the mix without shortchanging you or failing at their other responsibilities. The Two of Pentacles also suggests they may have been going through some kind of major life transition or dealing with unstable circumstances that made them feel like they couldn't make long-term commitments to anyone about anything. Maybe they were changing careers, dealing with financial stress, going through a divorce, caring for sick family members, or managing some other situation that required their full attention. This card is showing me that their decision was based on a very practical assessment of their capacity rather than their desire. The Two of Pentacles represents someone who knows their limits and tries to stay within them even when it means saying no to things they want. For you as a Pisces, this probably felt like they were making excuses or that they just didn't prioritize you enough. But the Two of Pentacles suggests they were actually trying to be realistic about what they could handle rather than making promises they couldn't keep. The Two of Pentacles can also indicate someone who is constantly trying to balance the needs of different people in their life and feeling like they can't make everyone happy. This person may have been dealing with family members, children, ex-partners, or other people who were making demands on their time and energy that left little room for developing a new committed relationship. This card is also suggesting that they may have been waiting for their life to become more stable before they felt ready to commit to anyone. The Two of Pentacles often appears when someone is in a transitional phase and doesn't want to make major decisions until things settle down. Unfortunately for your relationship, they may have felt like they needed to wait for perfect conditions that never came. What's important to understand about the Two of Pentacles in this context is that it shows someone who is self-aware about their limitations. Rather than committing to you and then being unable to show up fully, they chose to be honest about what they couldn't offer, even though it meant losing you. This card is also indicating that they may have felt guilty about not being able to give you what you deserved. The Two of Pentacles can represent someone who feels bad about their limitations but doesn't know how to overcome them. They may have wished they could be different, or that their circumstances were different, but felt stuck with the reality of their situation. The Two of Pentacles suggests this person was dealing with some form of overwhelm that made even good things feel like too much to handle. When someone is in this state, they often make decisions based on what they can manage, rather than what they want most. Let me pull one more card to see what advice the universe has for you, Pisces, about how to find peace and move forward from this situation. The final card I'm getting is the Nine of Pentacles, and this is such a beautiful message for you, Pisces, about reclaiming your independence and finding fulfillment on your own terms. The Nine of Pentacles is about self-sufficiency, personal achievement, and creating a life that feels abundant and satisfying without needing anyone else to complete it. This card is telling you that the key to healing from this situation is to focus on building a life that feels so rich and fulfilling that someone's inability to commit to you doesn't define your sense of worth or happiness. The Nine of Pentacles represents someone who has learned to find joy and satisfaction in their own company and their own achievements. What I love about the Nine of Pentacles in this position is that it's not telling you to become hard or closed off to love. Instead, it's encouraging you to become so complete within yourself that you only accept love that truly adds to your life, rather than love that requires you to diminish yourself or accept less than you deserve. The Nine of Pentacles is also about enjoying the fruits of your own labor and recognizing your own value independent of romantic relationships. This card is encouraging you to invest in yourself, pursue your own goals, and create the kind of life that makes you feel proud and fulfilled. This card is showing me that there are opportunities coming for you to experience success and abundance in areas that are completely within your control. The Nine of Pentacles suggests that focusing on your career, your personal growth, your friendships, your hobbies, or your creative expression will bring you more satisfaction right now than trying to make sense of someone else's inability to commit. The Nine of Pentacles also represents wisdom gained through experience. This situation has taught you something valuable about your own worth and what you're willing to accept in relationships. You're wiser now about the difference between someone who loves you and someone who is ready to build a life with you. This card is also encouraging you to trust your own judgment and intuition moving forward. The Nine of Pentacles represents someone who has learned to rely on themselves and make decisions based on their own wisdom, rather than constantly seeking validation from others. What's beautiful about the Nine of Pentacles is that it shows someone who has transformed pain into wisdom and disappointment into strength. This experience with someone who loved you but couldn't commit is actually helping you become more discerning and more confident in what you want and deserve. The Nine of Pentacles is also telling you that your worth isn't determined by whether someone else can see it or act on it. This card represents someone who knows their own value so clearly that other people's inability to appreciate them doesn't shake their confidence. This card is encouraging you to focus on creating abundance in your own life, rather than waiting for someone else to choose you. The Nine of Pentacles suggests that the more fulfilled and independent you become, the more attractive you'll be to people who are actually ready for commitment. Now let me share with you what I think is the most important message from this entire reading. This person's inability to commit to you had nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with where they were in their life journey. They were dealing with mental exhaustion, overwhelming life circumstances, fear of change, and practical limitations that made commitment feel impossible regardless of how much they loved you. Their love for you was real and deep, as shown by the Knight of Cups. You weren't imagining the connection or making up the feelings, but love alone wasn't enough to overcome their fear, their circumstances, and their sense of being overwhelmed by life's demands. The Two of Pentacles shows us that they were already juggling too much and genuinely couldn't handle adding a committed relationship to their life without dropping other important responsibilities. This wasn't about you not being worth it, but about them being realistic about their capacity. The Eight of Cups reveals that they were operating from a place of fear rather than courage. They were so afraid of what commitment might require them to sacrifice or change that they chose the familiar pain of loneliness over the unknown possibility of love. The Seven of Pentacles shows that they approach the relationship from a very practical, analytical mindset rather than following their heart. They were calculating costs and benefits instead of trusting in love's ability to help you figure things out together. And the Four of Swords tells us they were in a period of necessary healing and introspection that required them to prioritize their own emotional recovery over developing new relationships. All of these cards together paint a picture of someone who loved you sincerely, but was not in a place in their life where they could act on that love in the way you deserved. This doesn't make them a bad person, but it doesn't make their choice any less painful for you. The Nine of Pentacles is showing you the path forward. Instead of trying to make sense of their choices or waiting for them to change focus on building a life so beautiful and fulfilling that their absence doesn't diminish your happiness. Invest in yourself, pursue your dreams, strengthen your friendships, explore your passions, and become so complete within yourself that you only accept partners who are ready and excited to build something amazing with you. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's readiness for commitment. You deserve someone who not only loves you, but is thrilled to rearrange their life to make room for you in it. You deserve someone who sees loving you as an opportunity, not an inconvenience. This situation taught you to trust your intuition about people's feelings while also recognizing that feelings alone don't guarantee commitment. Moving forward, you'll be wiser about the difference between someone who loves you and someone who is prepared to act on that love consistently and wholeheartedly. The cards are telling you that your greatest love story is still ahead of you, and it will be with someone who is as ready for commitment as you are. Until then, focus on writing your own beautiful story of independence, growth, and self-love. The Nine of Pentacles promises that this period of focusing on yourself will prepare you for the kind of love that truly enhances your already amazing life. I hope this reading brought you some clarity and comfort, beautiful Pisces. Remember that someone's inability to commit to you is never a reflection of your worth, but always a reflection of their readiness. Keep your heart open, but your standards high, and trust that the right person will be both willing and able to choose you every single day.